How are you this morning? Happy Friday. I'm so glad that you are joining me. And I'm just going to put it out there. One of the things when I originally started doing the live videos on Facebook as Work Love Wednesdays, that I'm now transitioned into this HRart Rise Morning Show, is I wanted to find a way to still capture the reality of that I'm still in this growth learning phase with all of you. I don't have it all figured out. I'm still a student. It was meant to be a place for me to share things as I'm learning them. And this week has been hard. If you're in the HR Intuitive Bootcamp, I did my coaching call on Wednesday. I felt like I was all over the place. I just have been kind of through the emotional ringer, and it kind of continues, and it just seems to be the time. I thought that January delivered some ringers, and now, February is coming through as well. I also think it creates the perfect kind of foundation, I guess, for me to share with you what we're going to talk about today, because I need it. I need it. So the practices I'm intending to share with you today, we will engage in and practice together, and you'll see about that in a moment. So I simply say that because I think when I did my coaching call Wednesday, I did get emotional. I had an emotional moment, and it seems to be the theme of the week. And one of the things since I started practicing Qigong is that I don't fight my tears as much, because it is a healthy release. And in fact, it is the body's way of releasing when it doesn't know what else to do. And it's definitely a wake-up call that I am kind of out of balance. I am doing a lot. So even though my mantra for the year is less is more, I am pushing myself to reevaluate where I am spending my energy, because I'm once again in a situation where I just have way too much to do. So that I also started teaching again this week at the college. So I hate saying I lecture, but at the beginning it is heavy lecture because there's initial content, and the time frame that you have with them is so small. I remember when I first began teaching, I used to do a 3-hour night class, and I was like, I don't know, I'm going to fill this time. Now we fast forward, and this is my 4th year of teaching, and I have, what is the word? I negotiated, I guess that's the best thing, but I basically pushed to have 2 classes that are 75 minutes a piece rather than the 1 3-hour class, because people are just tired at night after you did whatever you did during the day. It felt like torturing my students, and then I was upset because I couldn't teach them as much about the topic. So now I teach 2 75-minute time frames for each course. And I just feel like there's not enough time to share with them and teach them and have that whole experience. So doing that now 6 hours a week through a mask, it definitely takes a toll on my voice, and I'm experiencing that today. So after going through a full week, I don't think that you can hear it. To me, I can start to hear that I feel like I sound like a frog, which is also why I'm very particular about what masks I wear when I teach that are still protective, but also with the whole filtering. There was some that I had early on, and they really whatever I was breathing down in was really bad. Anyways, so I say all that because now I'm like, I'm getting up and I'm doing the HRart Rise Morning Show where I'm talking, but you can talk to me too. So if you're watching on YouTube live this morning, don't hesitate to drop a message in the chat box. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to do that either. But I would love to just hear from you. One of the things about YouTube is that you can watch and you have your anonymity, if I could say that word this morning. That's not a word for bright and early on a Friday morning. And so I would love to be able to say hello to you. So say hello in the chat box so I can do so. All right. Enough of that chit chat. Let's see what we're talking about today. So today's heart chat, when we get to it's going to be about being able to manifest and allow our dreams to materialize requires us to be grounded, which is almost a counterintuitive action, because when we dream, we naturally tend to disassociate from our bodies. This week, I want to share what practices I utilize to keep myself grounded. So that is what we're talking about in our heart chat today. But before we do that, we've got to get to post to ponder. I think that this week is all Instagram again. I need to start moving towards LinkedIn a little bit. And I need to start looking at LinkedIn. I don't know why. There's just certain dynamics that are happening I shouldn't even say that, because I've been on LinkedIn and I would say that it just seems a little flat lately. I haven't really seen anything, like people are interacting, but there hasn't been anything that's made me ponder. And so naturally I'm spending more time on Instagram because I'm seeing more. So I just kind of share that there so that you know why I'm gravitating this way. So post number 1 is not there. Where did you go, post number 1? That's so bothersome. I guess we're not meant to see post number 1. So let's go to post number 2. Post number 2 is following hashtag empath from one.spiritual. And it says, love yourself a little extra right now. You're learning, healing, growing, and discovering yourself all at once. It's about to get magical for you. This post, I think more than pondering, is just nourishing. I said, as I've gone through the last couple weeks in January, and now we are just tipping into February, I have found myself going through a lot, and I know that I'm learning and healing and growing and discovering all at once, and that this literal tornado is within, and I'm trying to contain it and live through it and not shut down, and to just give myself grace, I think, is one of those reminders. And if you are finding yourself in a similar situation, because I know that sometimes those vibrations energetically are traveling and we're all experiencing a certain kind of energetic turmoil, just knowing that, and I say knowing, but I think you probably already know that it is 100% intentional and it's for the greatest good, no matter what is happening. But that doesn't usually change that it sucks. It sucks. I don't know how else to say that. I'm going to see if post number 1 comes through. I thought I saw it, but no, I didn't. Okay. Let's go to post number 3. Yes, post number 3. This is from hashtag INFJ things, posted by INFJ Psychology. If you don't know about this, is in the Myers-Briggs results, which is introverted, I think natural, feeling, and I forget what the J is. However, it's my personality. It's my personality combo that I get when I take the Myers-Briggs. And I was introduced to that when I was doing my research for my book for the HR Intuitive, and realizing how much of a match it is for me and how much I'm embracing those characteristics. So I follow this hashtag and look at the fun things that people post that are similar in personality to me. So this says, I think the best thing I ever did in my adult life was digging deep and asking myself why I am the way I am and do things the way I do. It takes a ton of work and intentionality, but getting to know yourself on a deeper level will help you thrive. And that has been my entire journey for the last 6 years now. That is what has been captured in my books so far. So if people are asking what's happening, is I had to have a better understanding of why I am the way I am. and do things the way that I do in order to start materializing books like the one that I'm working on now that is putting some action out there. So the book I'm working on now is called The HR Healer, and it's going to provide HR practitioners with the ability to restore themselves to get to do some really awesome healing cultural work in the future. So that is post number 3. Post number 4, my spiritual teacher, Gabby Bernstein. I love her, and I think I have 2 posts from her, I think. Unless that was the one that disappeared, but that we only get 1 post from Gabby. This says, not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear your path. And once again, this just speaks kind of to where I am in what's been happening, is that they feel like they're storms. They are storms that I'm weathering. However, if you've ever been near a storm and you've just taken a moment to notice the beauty that's there, there's destructiveness, there's danger, there's, all these other things that accompany with a storm, yet there is also a beauty. And there's also a beauty in what comes after that storm. And so it's really powerful to think of it as they're not here to destroy us. They're here to sometimes clear a path. And I do feel like that is what I'm going through right now. So, and last but not least, yes, 2 Gabby Bernsteins. And this is a quote from her, one of her teachers and mentors, Wayne Dyer, who is no longer with us, so may he rest in peace. But how people treat you in their karma. How people treat you is their karma, and how you react is yours. So it's interesting when we think about that, is that we have to own what we can own in any situation. And I think we get caught up on, and my coach, I'm working with a business coach who is absolutely fabulous. And one of the things that she taught me recently was talking about when we shift to a state of blame, we basically use it as a method to release all control, which means that we can basically say, like, I can't do anything. I can't help myself. It's all because of that person. And we use it as that mechanism. And so I found that fascinating, because whenever we have interactions or relationships, we always want to talk about people doing things to us. And it's a little different than that. And so I think it takes a whole new perspective. They have to own what they have. There's growth that's happening for them, which is why they're treating you that way. And then there's also how you react that speaks volumes as well. And I also say this is relevant to things that I am encountering, because as you encounter challenges, how you react, it really says a lot about where you are in your growth. And my husband has said, watching me go through these things, and he was like, man, I could only imagine what this would be like if this was 5 or 7 years ago, if you were encountering these situations. Like, I don't think you realize the drastic difference in yourself on how you're handling and processing and viewing these things, which was a huge compliment, because when you're in it, you're like, man, have I grown at all? I feel like I'm just back where I started. And to have someone from the outside say, no, these evolutions and the way that your thought processes are working and you're dissecting things are different. And that's all about elevating our heart vibration, which is what we do here every week. And so staying on this path, even though it feels like maybe it's not going anywhere, and maybe we're just like a snail, like going, but it's going. It's going. All right, so let's talk about our objective for today, which is all about being grounded. So let me pull that slide up one more time so that you can see that. But being able to manifest and allow our dreams to materialize requires us to be grounded, which is almost a counterintuitive action, because when we dream, we naturally tend to disassociate from our bodies. This week, I want to share what practices I utilize to keep myself grounded. So This is a natural lesson to come after talking about living in alignment, goal setting that we were doing in January. The lessons that we're unpacking here in February are heart inspired self-care, self-love. And I use this beautiful deck that I had gotten, and I don't have it down here. I'll try to have it next week to show you, that kind of unveiled inspiration for these lessons. And then I took my own spin on that inspiration, letting them be my muse, and now delivering these lessons. But one of the things that is really important about this idea of being grounded and the perspective that I'm bringing from what I just shared in my little mini sneak peek blurb is that when I started doing energy work, like back when I started doing Reiki, I realized for a long time that there was energy, very intense energy around like the belt area. And I felt myself intuitively being guided to pull energy down the legs and to spend time around the feet. And now I've learned even more with medical Qigong that it is energy that gets stagnant and like it does not come down to the feet. I've also learned through other studies on energy that we have a tendency to daydream, and then we try to make it happen. If you believe or study the chakra systems, around in the waist area is the creativity. There's also the money blocks are there, all those kinds of things in those areas of the chakras. And so they get locked there and they don't ever go down to the feet, which is basically when they're grounded and they can actually materialize. So I thought that was really fascinating, just based off of observation of treating a bunch of people, seeing all of that energy that was there. And when I would pull it down, people would feel different. And they would even have an increased likelihood to take some action on some things that they've been stuck on. And so we do naturally, because of our tendency to get defensive or scared. If we think about it from a Qigong methodology, that belt area is right around the kidneys, which are all associated with fear. So if I have this really great idea and I think I'm going to do it. Oh my gosh, it's so great. Then it hits here and it's like, oh, what if it doesn't work? What if you fail? This is terrifying. I can tell you that a lot of my energy right now is hanging out right there. I wouldn't even be surprised if, from a wellness perspective, if with stress and all that, if that's what I have been dealing with for several years, is so afraid to pursue who I am, so afraid to do the work that I feel like I want to do, the way that I want to do it. So I have this energy that I've just kept here, and that basically, if you think about it, that's the kidneys, that's stomach and spleen, and even heart coming up. So from a physical energy experience, because in medical Qigong, we believe they're all connected. So from a physical, I would experience, digestive issues. I would experience possibly bladder issues, heartburn, all things that at one time or another have kind of come up in my health journey. So it's just interesting to look at it from this. And I know this week is not about my health journey, but just to give you like a 2-minute lesson, I have been working for just equally as long as I have on healing myself, the physical body aspect, and trying to unpack what is happening there from a nutritional side. And that has still is a big ball of mystery as far as identifying what's materializing in my physical body. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And so I'm absorbing and I'm learning, but I'm also being curious about when I'm learning about the energetic body and the spiritual body and the physical body, and recognizing that they're all connected, and that the physical manifestations are typically the last place that a blockage or a stagnation would materialize if it was not addressed in the spiritual body or the energetic body. So, and knowing that I've had, high emotions for several years, knowing like from a spiritual aspect that I struggled with just worthiness and purpose for so long, it makes sense that things would start to materialize on the physical body in the timeline that they did. So, I say all that because being grounded, being connected and pulling that information down, we need to make sure that we take it and make it grounded so that we can actually manifest and materialize and serve. So that's why these lessons are so valuable. So I have 3 practices that I'm going to share with you today. The first one is feel your feet. This practice I share with my daughter all the time because she is just like me. She is very connected, probably on a level that I don't understand. And the only way to get her grounded that I have found when I have to do it with her in a real-time kind of situation is to tell her to feel her feet. So like we could be anywhere and it's taking literally a couple of minutes and just saying, I want you to notice your feet. How do they feel in your shoes? Can you feel the ground beneath? If you're in a place and it's warmer outside, or you're at home and you can take your shoes off and just feel your feet connected to the ground, feeling physically rooted to the ground beneath you and noticing every little sensation. You want to send your attention to your feet and all the sensations, all the pain, if you have discomfort, if you don't like the shoes. In fact, when I first learned this practice, I would heavily do wear uncomfortable shoes because my feet would hurt. It would be so easy for me to start thinking about my feet and bring myself back down. So the first one is always to think of your feet. A question that you might ask yourself is, how do I know that I would need to do that? So the main sign of this is when you feel kind of spacey, like almost like daydreamy, and you don't feel connected to your surroundings at all. So it's you can also feel somewhat numb to what's happening around you, but you just kind of feel like you're in this this invisible bubble that separates you from the world, and it's protecting you, and everything else outside of it doesn't really matter. That is usually the sign for it to come down. For me, it is always, oh, I'm kind of spacey. I usually do get kind of clumsy because I am so up in the clouds. Like, think about disassociating as, instead of going down to the earth, which is where your physical body is, you're trying to escape to the clouds. You are literally trying to escape to the clouds. And so if you want to say from a Chinese medicine perspective, your shen, your spirit, is shifting out. Basically, physical body left that's just functioning without that spirit that makes you who you are and is your complete essence as they combine together. And so you have this separation that's occurring and you've got to bring it back down. So that can materialize for, I think, everyone differently. So I say this sparingly because just because I experience it one way does not mean that you experience it the same way. And this was very true last week for Vision Fest. I coached several people when they're talking about feeling connected to images. The way that I feel it is different than others. And so breaking that down, because you've got to learn how it feels for you. And once you find it, it's pretty awesome. And you'll start to, once you know what it feels like to be grounded in your body, you'll also be able to identify what it feels like above. So even if you just play with this idea of feeling your feet, you can get those little, I have little acupressure balls that you can roll on the bottom of your feet for people who have plantar fasciitis, and those sensations of just being familiar with your feet and then feeling your body as it relaxes and you're grounded and you're settled into your body. Point number 2 is tap your head. I love that image of that guy tapping his head. That was like, when I found that brought me so much joy. I was so happy when I saw that. So tapping your head, I use this all the time, and it's more natural to me to think this than the feet. So even though I use the feet all the time with my daughter, this is definitely something that I think just happens kind of naturally. So when I'm spacey, I feel like I'm going out of my head. That's where I feel like it's traveling out of. And so it's an acupressure technique where we just kind of tap on our head all around. We don't beat our head. We're just lightly tapping. But you'll start to feel yourself coming back into your head. And I don't know if that's because you want to visualize this idea of things are exiting from the head. So as you're tapping, it's bringing the intention back. So everything's like, oh, we're coming back. We're coming back to the head. We're coming back to the head. I think it feels really good. I do this a lot if I find myself spacing in the car, which I have a tendency to do because I think about things. And, disassociating or disconnecting happens when we're unpacking what we're going through. And if things are challenging, we can just, want to disassociate because then you don't have to experience. I also tell you that other popular methods for disassociating and disconnecting: processed food, alcohol. Anything that you would think about not wanting to feel, that is a sign that you're starting to disassociate. And so you can use one of these practices first and then choose, I'm all down for a nice glass of wine in the evening. But I want to make sure it's because I want to enjoy it, not because I'm trying to numb a sensation and not experience something that's happening within me. All right, last but not least is direct the energy. So this is the one that I probably have been using when when things are just so chaotic and I've kind of gotten caught up in the whirlwind. So there's one version of disassociating and spacing, on like a normal day. Then there's like me who's been trapped in a whirlwind for the last 2 weeks of just spinning and so much to do. So you can't even pause. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so spacey. Like I said, for me, one of the big symptoms is that I do get clumsy because I'm just kind of all over the place. And so I use this to center myself, but also it just is very, very beneficial. And it comes from, in Qigong, we talk about this idea of turbid qi. And one of my friends and colleagues in that program, she shared with me about turbid qi goes the wrong way on the meridians. And that happens to be, for most of them, flushing up to the head. And so she said, you need to envision them going down. And when she gave me that visual, it was really, really powerful. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do some breathing where we're basically going to inhale through the nose. And then when we'll exhale out through the nose, we're going to envision that we feel energy just sink down. And then try to get it down all the way to your toes. But basically, I'll be inhaling in, collecting the energy, and then exhaling out, feeling it going down like a waterfall, like a wave. So I can see like these energetic waves that are just kind of going down my body. That's how it feels. Okay, so let's go ahead and just close our eyes, feet flat on the ground if you can, and just inhale and exhale, push it down. Again, inhale. Exhale, push it down. One more on your own. Eventually, as you practice this, you'll start to feel the tinglies that are going down your legs, down to your feet. And it's really kind of cool. I find it very beneficial. I feel myself even coming down a couple notches despite what is happening kind of around me and keeping me centered. And that's really what it's about. There is no guarantee that once you get to a certain level of being awakened or connected, that life loses its challenges that it delivers. The difference is that you have the ability to cope through them differently, to view them differently. There's a new level of transparencies that is there. So life is still hard at times. However, I guess if we want to use the word easy loosely, it does get easier, because I can definitely tell you that, and my husband's right, if these things had happened to me 5 years ago, I would think the world is ending and that everyone has it out for me. That's not how I view things. I see it as a moment in time and experience, something that is probably teaching me a lot right now, or being of great service to me, even though it's not the winding path that I would have chosen for myself, to quote someone else who had a very beautiful message and conversation with me. So those are my 3 points and practices to share with you for our little heart chat. And last but not least, let's take a sneak peek at our heart chat for next week. So you have a right to self-care. It's so easy to say, but not so easy to do. We routinely put ourselves at the bottom of our priority list, giving it up without a second thought. Or giving up without a second thought. Man, you think I don't have my glasses on. We routinely put ourselves at the bottom of our priority list, giving up without a second thought time that we have devoted for ourselves. We need to treat this time as sacred, because it is. You are worthy. Self-care is not optional. It's a right. I feel like I wrote that because I needed to hear it, because that's kind of the space that I'm in. But we're going to talk about that. I say it all the time to clients, and I know I say it all the time to myself. Like, if we don't take care of us, nothing else matters. We won't be able to experience life and be present. My husband says it to me routinely about doing what I need to do so that I can be here and enjoy our family and our marriage. And not taking care of ourselves limits our ability to do that. It limits our ability to enjoy our work. And so if you're someone who, which you are, because if you're here, you're a fellow HRart worker, so you're people driven, you're an HR practitioner in some fashion. And for us to maximize our impact, we need to take care of ourselves. So that's what we will talk about next week in our heart chat. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a beautiful week. Thank you so much for joining me today and bearing with me as I think I had a little bit better together, but still was I'm still not 100%. I know that I'm still a little spacey, shall I say. All right. Take care. I'll see ya.